Okay. So, as we're on the last night, and it was a long night, it things eventually started to calm down, where people, not everyone, was somewhat back to normal, but most people were back to normal, and at one point when things quieted down, I was laying in bed and I felt something had landed on my bed and also hit right here on my hand. Physically, felt it. My bed shook. I shook. This was a real physical feeling. And, I was by the door and I'm like, okay, that must have been a person, maybe, but why would they hit my hand on this side? Because the door was on this side. So why would they come through? Because our mattresses were only this close together. So why would, or did the woman next to me hit me or something? What is that? And eventually I just hesitated for a second because I was like, oh my God, what is that? and then I looked and there was a dark shadow of a paw print and it literally just, and then as it walked away, I was like, no way. Come on. What? Put my head back down. I was like, I'm just going to stay here. Maybe that was a frog. Maybe a frog jumped on my bed and it jumped off in between the mattress. I'll check in the morning and see if it's still there. But no, I did check in the morning and there was no frog there. I'm quite sure that it was the panther walking over my bed, and I believe that the panther, you can Google that too, does protect you from negative forces. So I felt good about that. When things calmed down, they started to call up the different groups, the 3 groups. And calm down is a relative term because there were still people going. So they call up the 3 groups to get 6 blessings from the shaman and the helpers. So I was in the last group to get called up, and we were the small group, and we got our blessings, which was beautiful and lovely. And the whole time I kind of just sat there and danced, and I know some of the helpers laughed at me when they came to me because I just couldn't stop moving. I just felt so good. So we got our blessings, which was beautiful. And then after my blessing, went back to my bed, and this started to get light out. The sun started coming up. So, and also throughout the night when I did look, there were people. I didn't see much because I didn't really look around. I didn't really want to look around. But I did see people did walk around, and you got, mostly I saw guys walk around, and they're big guys. Some guys had their shirts off and they're walking with their bucket, and they just look like zombies. Doesn't mean they were. Doesn't mean they were sad or having a bad experience. I have no idea what was going on in their head. But that's how it looks like externally. So I was in my bed, sun started coming up, and I was like, all right, let me see if my friend is anywhere by her bed, or let me go see how she's doing. So as I stood up to go see how she's doing, she was actually coming to me. So she beat me to it, and we went outside, and she said, don't worry about it. It's been a shit show out here. People you could talk, because you're not supposed to talk during the ceremony from beginning to end. It's called the sacred silence, and you're not supposed to talk. But she's like, no, don't worry. People have been talking out here for hours. Just don't talk inside. Just, be quiet about it. And she had been up, and I'm outside for quite some time. And she was like, you have no idea what went on out here. She's like, one guy was out there. She's like, there's some guys walking around in his underwear with some pants on his head. It turned out he was walking around. He had worn a diaper, and which I don't think is a terrible idea. I thought about it too. I just didn't do it. He was walking around in his diaper and put toilet paper, took someone else's roll of toilet paper and put it on his head in like a big turban. And it was so funny because he was still really in it, and some other people, because they had 2 or 3 cups, and some other people came out and they were still in it. There were people lying on the ground. There was one guy back there who was maybe a little X-rated. And so it was amusing. And so there was those of us who were just hanging out talking, and those of us still in the Maloka, and then those of us still pretty high. And so it was funny because the gentleman with the turban on said a piece of tissue paper came into his face. He's like, "What the heck is that?" And he was talking to his brother who he went with, and his brother goes, "Oh, you don't know? Turn around and look at the window." He looked at the window. He had no idea what he looked like. Oh, we got a picture of him. He shared it. So fun, so funny. But then talked to another gentleman who said he was still high and just said he had gone through some rough things, and but he felt great, and he was still high, and he was so thankful, and it was so relieving to have purged these things. And this was one of the gentlemen that had a reserved bed by the door in the center room, and so we come to realize that those individuals that may have a more maybe loud, visceral, or physical experience, they want them to be easily accessed by the helpers and the shaman, and then also to be able to take them out quickly if they need to be taken out. So he was one of those folks. And so see, even though it seems to other people on the outside that that people are having a bad experience or that it's scary, you know, he still went every night, and when he was done, he was thankful for the experience. And that's just a beautiful, amazing thing. I think, number one, that's so brave, but, you know, number two, it's so beautiful that people could really be helped and be thankful for it after. You know, I liken it to my mom when we were young. She always just ripped the Band-Aid off. Even though it hurts so much, she's always says, no, it's quicker if you just rip it. It hurts a lot for a little bit. Instead of when you do it slow, it hurts a little bit for a lot, right? And that's the difference. This is hurting a lot, maybe, for a little bit, and then, a night, maybe a couple hours, and versus, you know, living in your shit for years and maybe decades. Yeah, she also doesn't use Novocaine when she goes to the dentist. So I've never tried that. I wouldn't recommend it, but she does. So you can take that a little too far, I guess, but you know, see what works for you. Anyway, so that was the last night. When the ceremony was finally over, when they actually called it, we got together and the shaman spoke for a bit, and we hadn't pledged to stay for the end of the ceremony this night. He hadn't asked us to, so my friend and I snuck out, and we got back to our room at about 8:15 in the morning. And we got dressed and went to breakfast and went to the pool and just did our chill things on Friday. We did go to the plant integration class on Friday, which was definitely very beneficial and helpful. And it was, you know, went to the spa. It was just such a beautiful, gorgeous day. At one point, we were walking, and my friend said, you know, you are light. You are the light. And I just had so much joy, and I was just exploding, and I just screamed outside. I just said, I have a light! It just felt so good, you know, and I wanted people to hear that. I wanted people to hear that, and not leave with just these other sounds of purging, right? And I wanted the people that worked there to hear that too.